Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Bob and this is my Dungeon Master's Guide series to Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. These videos are for the Dungeon Masters of the group. There will be many spoilers ahead, so if you're a player, turn the video off now. The goal of this video series is to break down the sections of the book and summarize them into manageable chunks. That way I can cut down on a lot of the prep time having to go back and reread and plan from scratch. You can use these videos sort of like a pre-reading so that you have a general understanding of what's to come in the book, or if you've already read the book, you can use these videos to reinforce the ideas. And as always, I intend to give you my opinions and tell you how my group tackled these situations. Today we discussed the long-awaited Vanthampur Villa. Now I'm going to be breaking this video up into two parts, which is the villa itself and under the villa, which are really two distinct scenarios, so I'm going to cover them in separate videos. Alright, so let's discuss the Vanthampur Villa. The characters should be third level when they approach the villa. Most likely they will enter the villa and then also enter into the tunnels down beneath it, which means they're going to have a very long and arduous time here in the villa. They will probably need the ability to rest at certain points, and having third level characters will make this much more realistic. The Vanthampur Villa is located in the upper city, of course, which is populated by the wealthiest residents of Baldur's Gate and heavily patrolled by the Watch. It says in the book the characters can enter the upper city so long as they present their flaming fist badges or perhaps have a player in the group that's from the Watch. If this is the case and they want to get in, they can also bribe the guards with 2 copper pieces each, so really easy to get into the upper city. Okay, so who is at the villa? Well, there are a couple of different types of people there. At any given moment, there will be 9 guards patrolling the grounds of the villa, as well as some other guards stationed inside the house. There are some workers. In fact, there are quite a few servants and groundskeepers that keep this house up and running. The book does name a few NPCs that you can use at your discretion. Fendrick Gray, who is a decrepit 70-year-old butler. Sarvinder Peck, a salty 52-year-old groundskeeper and stable master. Gabori Delvelian, a fussy 35-year-old cook, and Ambra Fallwater, a plain-spoken 19-year-old maid. And of course, there's the Vanthampurs. At this time, only 2 Vanthampurs actually live in the villa. The Lamra Vanthampur, who is the High Duke of Baldur's Gate now that older Ravengard is gone. The Lamra is the matriarch of the family. She is a cunning, devil-worshipping beast of a woman in her late 60s who can stare down a hellhound without flinching. What a description from the book. The Lamra orchestrated the disappearance of Grand Duke Ulder Ravengard to fulfill her ultimate goal of becoming the new Grand Duke of Baldur's Gate. When not engaged in these political matters, she conducts her most secret business down in the dungeon complex below the villa. Thirstwell Vanthampur is a pale, sullen recluse in his 40s. He's a veritable shut-in and uses imps to spy on his brothers Amric and Mortlock. Thirstwell resents both of them, Amric for being his mother's favorite and Mortlock for being a monstrous dolt. Now the big disconnect between these two is that Thirstwell should be the successor to Thalamra, but she doesn't really like Thirstwell. She doesn't see him as competent. She wants to groom Amric to become the successor of the Vanthampur family and fortune. Oh, and there is one more Vanthampur that could be living at the villa, and that is Slobberchops. He's a mean-looking Tressym, a winged cat with a bobtail and numerous battle scars. In fact, Slobberchops could actually be a helpful guide through this villa as long as the PCs are nice to it and feed it. Now what about Mortlock and Amric? Well, the characters probably have met Mortlock at this point. The Dungeon of the Dead 3, which you can check out my video on that above. If the characters have gone to the Dungeon of the Dead 3, they've most likely either rescued Mortlock from near death or he's died and they found out some information about him after his death. I cover this in that video. But if Mortlock is alive and the characters were able to successfully prevent him from dying, then he will be with the group and most likely is feeding the group all this information. He's their contact. A Mortlock could be very valuable in this location. Amric is a character that they may also have dealt with before. In my Low Lantern video, I discussed how they could encounter Amric, the loan shark. The group could have kidnapped Amric as well, that is a possibility, and then they could be using Amric to get into the villa. I'm going to talk about all the ways they could possibly get into the villa shortly, but this is how they would know Amric and perhaps could have another contact to the Vanthampurs. So why would the characters be going to the Vanthampur Villa? Doesn't this seem like suicide? Well, as I mentioned, Mortlock most likely has spilled the beans on his mother and tells the group that she is in charge of the Cult of the Dead 3, and it's pretty much being organized below her villa. They could also have been prompted by Rhea Mantlemorn. Rhea is the Hell Rider in training. She's meets the group at the Low Lantern. She could be with the group very well at this moment and help them get into the villa. Now, the way you can kind of guide them and get them to go to the villa would be that she has seen Thavius Krieg enter the Vanthampur Villa, or go with more what the book says is that she heard a rumor that he had been seen in Baldur's Gate. You can elaborate on that rumor to say that the last person to see him saw him headed into the Vanthampur Villa. Your group may also come up with a variety of reasons to have them go explore this Vanthampur Villa. Perhaps it's just to get some more information. It could just be that, and rather than going to confront them, they can be going to do this in a more peaceful way. Which brings us to the next question: how would they get into the villa? Because this is, for all intents and purposes, it's a fortress. There are guards on duty at all times, and they are dedicated guards. They're not going to be bought or persuaded. So I'm going to give you 5 options to get your group into the villa. Now, as a dungeon master, it's not necessarily your job to figure out all the plans for your group. In fact, quite the opposite. Your group should be coming up with these plans, but I need to come up with a few options in my own mind to make it plausible, so that way maybe perhaps I can drop hints to the group, or just that if I could come up with a few, I'm sure they could come up with a few. All right, so let's start with option number 1, which is kind of what the book suggests. The entire property is walled off, and there are guards on patrol. If they have a family member with them, Amric or Mortlock, for example, Amric or Mortlock could get them in. Family members are allowed to enter and leave the villa freely, and they are allowed to bring guests. Mortlock would be the obvious choice here because he would probably be on the group's side. Presumably Amric would blow their cover if he got the chance. So I would say Amric might get them into the villa, but when the time is right, he will make a lot of noise, he will blow their cover and get them in trouble with the guards. Option number 2: full-blown assault. Go in guns blazing. It is possible that your PCs could handle the guards and any of the staff members because they are maybe big enough of a party. I'd say if they're a group of 6 or so or more, they could probably handle it. Depending on what level they are, if you started them a little bit higher in their 4th level or 5th level, then I think this might be an option for a group. Option number 3 would be to sneak in, which I think is kind of the coolest way to do it. You could do this in the cover of night. You can have people use grappling hooks to get over the wall, watch the sentries to make sure they know when guards are switching in and out. I think this could be cool and sort of give a purpose to some of the stealthy characters, the monks, the rogues, etc. Option number 4, if they kidnapped Amric, well then they could send a message to Thalamra, a kidnap letter basically, a ransom letter, and say that they would like to discuss what's going on and they have Amric. This is something that Thalamra will definitely want to engage with. She wants to get Amric back because again he is her favorite son. They could perhaps meet in the villa and tell Thalamra through a series of letters to have the guards and everyone be off duty. This can be just a meeting between her and them. Now, of course, Thalamra will probably have some guards or even have the cult ready to back her up, but this is another way that they can get into the villa. Option 5, disguise themselves, which is actually kind of what my group did. My group decided to disguise themselves as a traveling bard troupe that just happened to be going to wealthy patrons' houses to get some work. Now, of course, the guards could send them away, but I had the guards ask the Lammer if she wanted the bard troupe to come in, and she just accepted, not thinking anything of it. Again, she does have a pretty fortified place, and she wouldn't think anything of a troupe of singers. But they could disguise themselves as anything: cleaning crews, gardeners, groundskeepers, caterers, cooks. There's a whole slew of options that they can choose. This is also a really cool option to get them in because then they can do a lot of role-playing. There's a lot of social interaction that could occur. Now that you've got your group into the villa, let's discuss the locations. Location V1 is the yard. 9 evil human guards patrol this area in groups of 3. When the characters arrive, they are located at the points marked V1 on the map. They circle the yard counterclockwise. To pass through these guards, they can roll a dexterity stealth check, DC 13. The check can be made with advantage if it's nighttime. V2 is the stable house. This is actually a really great location because it could be a place of cover, a place to rest, but not only that, there's actually a secret trap door that leads directly underneath the villa here. And if your group happens to stumble upon this, that could mean that you bypass a lot of the villa and go into the under the villa section first. I'm going to cover that in the next video, so stay tuned. V3 is the foyer. So if the characters get through the front door, they will either be met by Butler Fendrick Gray, or they will just sneak in and be unannounced. There are, however, 4 invisible imps that lurk among the vases on the high shelf in each corner of the room. The imps will swoop down and attack any one that they perceive as a threat, an intruder. I also feel like if your characters had seen the imps, or if you wanted to include those imps that were around the city locations, then perhaps they would be able to alert Thirstwell that the group has arrived, and Thirstwell could be prepared for them. Now, he doesn't necessarily have to tell his mother, or if his mother's not even home at the time, again, that's your decision, then perhaps the imps won't tell the Lamra. But Thirstwell would probably be prepared. Now, there's a lot of different random treasures around the Vanthampur Villa, so I'm going to just go through and read some of these pieces of treasure if they seem pretty important, if there's something that your characters may want to pick up. If it's just gold, I'm going to probably just avoid saying it. V4 is the servants' quarters. Really nothing of value here, but it is a room that they could hide in or perhaps take a rest in. V5 is the kitchen. Pleasant aromas fill this area. The cook, Gabourey Develian, is there preparing meals for the Vanthampers. And of course, there is a dumbwaiter in here. If you don't know what a dumbwaiter is, I didn't know this when I first ran Curse of Strahd, but I found out a dumbwaiter is a small freight elevator or lift intended to carry food. Dumbwaiters found within modern structures include both commercial, public, and private buildings. They are often connected between multiple floors. Now, Slobber Chops, the Tressym, is also here. This is an opportunity for the group to befriend him if they give him food or they use a handle animal check. They can befriend him, and then he can kind of guide them around and maybe even be a lookout. That's kind of what I did with my group. He was able to alert them to presence of other guards or things like that. But what's really helpful is he can also alert them of the invisible imps in the room because he doesn't like them. V6 is the pantry. Obviously, there's food in here, but it is nothing of note. V7 is the stairs that go down. This room contains a barrel of fresh water and a brick-walled staircase that descends 15 feet to area V20. This will take the group down into the under the villa section. V8 is the parlor. While entertaining visitors in this room, the Duke likes to sit in a high-back chair facing a pair of padded couches and a coffee table. There is a hidden compartment in the left armrest of the chair that contains a silver dagger in case, things get real. A character who examines the chair can locate the hidden compartment with a successful DC 12 Wisdom Perception check. There is a great family portrait of the Vanthampers here. It's of Duke the Lamra herself. All three of her dead husbands, yes, that's right, 3 dead husbands, and her 3 sons, 1 to each of them. Slobber Chops also made an appearance in this portrait too. One interesting piece of treasure is the tapestry hanging on the north wall, which depicts burning angels falling from the sky into a pit of fire. If that is not foreshadowing, then I don't know what is. The tapestry is worth about 150 gold. V9 is the dining room. An iron-wrought chandelier hangs above an oak dining table. There are 8 high-backed chairs carved to look like devils. A little bit more foreshadowing here. Perched in the chandelier are 3 invisible imps. So again, if Slobber Chops is with you, he will alert the group that there's something in the room. There's a cabinet in this room that has 8 red crystal goblets and 16 bottles of wine. The last bottle of wine is laced with midnight tears, a tasteless poison. So be careful. If your character starts saying, I'm going to take some bottles of wine, I'd say, sure, why not? Let him take the poisonous wine. That'll be funny later. V10 is the gallery. The black curtains in here are drawn over the windows to the south, keeping this hall dark and cool. Ambra Fallwater, the maid, could be dusting in here, or the butler, Fendrick Gray, could also be walking around and could stop in this room. There is a wax statue that's 6 feet tall that depicts the Duke, holding their family pet, Slobber Chops, in her arms. She does really care for this Tressym. Oh, and Slobber Chops' statue has a mouse caught in its jaws. Not that you should really ever fake out the group, but it is 6 feet tall, so it's about human height. It could totally be a instance where someone sees the Lamra and then realizes it is a statue, just for a little bit of shock value. V11 is the upstairs hall. There are 5 guards that stand here, 1 by each door. They attack anyone on sight that's not accompanied by a Vanthampur family member. If they hear trouble elsewhere, the guards can't be surprised, but they may also just stay put to guard Thirstwell's room and the rest of the Vanthampur bedrooms upstairs. V12 is the balcony. Now, this could be important to get in if the characters are sneaking around the premises and try to get in that way, maybe using a grappling hook, but other than that, there's nothing here. V13 is Thirstwell's bedroom. Now, this is an important room because there's actually a really important piece of treasure here. It's called the Infernal Puzzle Box. Now, Thirstwell and one of his invisible imps are in this room. Thirstwell, as I said, probably should have been alerted unless the group was very efficient at taking out those imps. He probably would be prepared for what's going on, so I had Thirstwell be ready for the group when they entered. Thirstwell's a bit of an arcanist himself. He's been studying magic, and he's also been trying to figure out what this infernal puzzle cube is. If he's been alerted, he will have the puzzle cube hidden in a chest, which is locked, and the key will be in his pocket. As soon as the group enters into his room, he will cast Sacred Flame at the nearest one. This will probably start a combat, and the group may very likely kill Thirstwell. He doesn't have too much defense. He's got an AC of 9, 5 hit points. He's very frail. He does have a few spells he can cast. He can cast Command, Detect Evil, and Sanctuary. And Sanctuary could be a good spell for him because if anyone wants to target him with an attack, they would have to take a Wisdom saving throw or be forced to attack something else. If Thirstwell gets captured and is interrogated, well, he gives up quite a bit of information. Personality-wise, Thirstwell should be a spoiled brat. If he's captured, he basically complains about how the guards really let him down and they're useless. He tries to bide his time, hoping that somebody will be able to come and rescue him, but he will talk. If he's interrogated, he will let spill a few secrets of the Vanthampurs. One, his mother, the Duke, is in the dungeon below the villa with Thavius Krieg. She and the former High Overseer of Elturel are plotting to seize control of Baldur's Gate. 2. The second piece of information is that he and his brothers recently stole the Shield of the Hidden Lord. I would say that both the brothers would omit this because it's kind of a secret, and Mortlock might be, upset about it. But basically, they stole this from a crypt under the city. A powerful devil named Gargoth is trapped in the shield and has vowed to help the Vanthampurs conquer Baldur's Gate if released. Thavius Krieg is confident that he can devise a way to release Gargoth from the shield. Finally, Thavius Krieg arrived in the city a few days ago with this puzzle box. The Duke insisted that Thavius let the family safeguard the item while he studies the shield. So the piece of treasure that they're going to get here is the Infernal Puzzle Box. This magic item is unique. It is a box that belongs to Thavius Krieg and was entrusted to Duke Vanthampur for safekeeping. Thalamra gave it to Thirstwell, her smartest son, to see if he can uncover what's inside. Now, the book suggests that the players should not be able to decipher this and figure it out for themselves, because that'll prompt them to have to go to Candlekeep to open it. I do think that it's kind of lame that the book basically says don't let your players, open it, but there's some things that are beyond the player's skill, and sometimes rolling a 20 doesn't always succeed on a skill check. However, the box is able to be opened, and there's someone in the dungeon below that can help them. Philaster Fisk, who's a spy that's been imprisoned by the Vanthampurs below the villa, can guide them to Candlekeep, where somebody can decipher the code. But for you to know, the box basically contains Thavius Krieg's contract with Zariel. So it's kind of an incriminating piece of evidence if the characters can hold on to it. V14 is Mortlock's bedroom. Mortlock is not going to be there at this time because he's either with the group or he's dead, presumably. V15 is Amric's bedroom, which again probably won't be here because he has either been captured by the group or killed. If he did escape and managed to get back to the villa, then it's possible he's here. V16 is the Duke's powder room. Contains various cosmetics, brushes, perfumes, spools of thread. Other furnishings in the room include a wooden partition adorned with a bird of prey rendered in a gold leaf, and a tall black wardrobe with corsets and fine clothes. The vanity holds a bunch of bottles of perfume, all different sorts of jewelry, but what's really important to the group is perhaps the 2 potions of healing in crystal vials. V17 is Thalamra's master bedroom. So the Duke retires to this chamber when she needs a rest to shake off a headache. She gets most of her meals delivered here as well. There is an iron chest that is padlocked. Thalamra carries the key on herself, but it could be picked with a DC 17 dexterity check using thieves' tools. Now, there are quite a few items in this chest for a treasure. The chest contains 3 thin, black-covered ledgers with entries written in Infernal. They are records of Duke Vanthampur's legitimate business dealings. There's a set of calligrapher's supplies, a poisoner's kit, a coin pouch made of sheep's bladder, and the Pipes of the Sewers, which is a very cool magical item. You must be proficient with wind instruments to use these pipes. I would say if you have a bard, I would just say that they would probably be proficient with it. I don't know if I get so specific when it comes to things like this in the game, but if someone is proficient with it, then they can use these pipes. Ordinary rats and giants become indifferent to you and will not attack you unless you threaten or harm them. This could come in handy when you're in the sewers or underneath in dungeons and underground. If you play the pipes as an action, you can use a bonus action to expend 1 to 3 charges, calling forth 1 swarm of rats with each expended charge, provided that enough rats are within a half mile of you to be called on in this fashion, be determined basically by you. If there aren't enough rats to form a swarm, a charge is wasted. Called swarms move toward the music of the shortest available route, but aren't under your control otherwise. The pipes regain 1d3 charges daily at dawn. You can also make a charisma check against the rat swarm's wisdom saving throw, and those rats will become friendly to you for the duration. Okay, V18 is the Duke's study. This could be a challenging combat as there is a helmed horror in this room. A helmed horror is basically a construct that looks like a suit of armor. This one was fashioned in Avernus, so it's pretty menacing. It also may be a really tough challenge because it's got AC 20, it's got 60 hit points, and it's got a 30-foot fly speed. It attacks with 2 longsword attacks, which you can use one-handed or two-handed. It does have magic resistance, so it's got advantage on saving throws against spells and spell-like effects. It is also immune to 3 specific spells: Firebolt, which is very common for players to have, Sacred Flame, and Shocking Grasp. It is resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks. It is immune to Force, necrotic, and poison damage. It is also immune to the conditions blinded, charmed, deafened, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, and stunned. It has blind sight up to 60 feet and a passive perception of 14. There are a couple of bookcases in the study. The Vanthampers abhor reading, but most of the books aren't important, but there is one titled The Last Charge of the Hell Riders. Cavity, cut into its pages, holds a small iron ring with 2 keys hanging from it. These keys unlock the cages in area V19, the Tower Peak. Let's head over to the Tower Peak. If the characters climb the wrought iron spiral staircase from area V18, describe this room. The spiral staircase climbs 15 feet to a square room with crisscrossing rafters 10 feet overhead and a peaked roof above that. An empty bookcase dominates the west wall, and 2 filthy padlock cages stand on the floor. Each cage holds a human prisoner and a chamber pot. There are also 2 invisible imps here. When no one else is around, they torment the prisoners. They will probably avoid combat, but I guess in theory they could act like the other imps and attack the group if they want to. So the 2 prisoners, well, who are they? Well, the first one is Shalene Zaraz. This is a sewer maintenance supervisor who badmouthed the Vanthampers. This is their punishment for speaking out against them. The second is Kajil Orunmar, a neutral evil male human commoner. He's a tax collector who's been giving the Vanthampers a hard time, and once the Duke is satisfied that no one important will miss him, she plans to kill him and feed his remains to the rats in the sewers. Alright, so how will all this go down now that we've gone through each of the locations here? Well, the way I see it playing out is a few ways. Depends on how your group comes in. If they came in guns blazing and they're ready to fight, then I think you just go through from room to room trying to do combats as quietly and efficiently as you think the group is moving. If they're loud and they're making lots of noises, casting loud spells, then the guards will probably just swarm on them, as well as the helmed horror, which could be activated if the Vanthampers want the utmost defense. If the character is being stealthy, then I think you take this almost like a dungeon crawl. If it's at night, perhaps they're trying to avoid they try to avoid the butler who's roaming inside the grounds as well as the guards, and they take it out almost room by room. If they're there during the daytime and they're trying to socialize and sneak around in plain sight, then I think they could have conversations with the Vanthampers and talk with each of them and try to role-play their way out of getting killed or getting captured. If the group manages to find the stairs going down under the villa, then this is going to change the dynamic quite a bit, because they will not be in the Vanthampur Villa any longer. They'll be in the sewer system, which is where a huge following of the Cult of the Dead 3 is located. So it will change dramatically, but it could kind of speed up the process, because the Vanthampur Villa, the important part about getting through this portion of the location is to find that puzzle box. That's really the key here, and also perhaps find out if Thavius Krieg is actually here or not. So once they find those 2 pieces of information, they're more than welcome to be led down to the dungeon. In fact, I'd say that once they get to Thavius Krieg, I'd say that once they find Thirstwell, in fact, once I think they find Thirstwell, then they probably would want to head directly down into the dungeon. But who knows? They're players and they could throw a wrench into your plans at any moment. How my group approached this was they actually went in as I said before, a singing bard troupe. The bard in the group led everyone with performance checks, and they had to bluff and try to disguise themselves so they weren't easily identified. They had a lot of fun doing this role-playing encounter and seeing the Duke while she was having a lunch meeting with some other associates. And once the Duke left the villa, that's when they started to sneak around a little bit more, and they kind of overstayed their welcome. They ended up encountering Thirstwell, so once the Duke was done with her meeting and left the villa to attend other business, that's when the group went and explored a little bit. They searched the first floor quite a bit, but then they went actually outside. So the Duke told them to leave because she had to leave the villa herself to attend to other business in Baldur's Gate, and that's when they hid in the stable. So they got to explore a little bit of the first floor before finding that trapdoor that went down underneath the villa into the sewer system. They eventually came back up and searched the rest of this place, but for a time they really only were in the dungeon and they kind of encountered all of those areas first. Next video, I'm going to talk about that under the villa section, so stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video on the Vanthampur Villa, please give me a like, hit subscribe button, and you can hit the bell icon for notifications whenever I go live with a new video. All right, everybody, I will see you on the tabletop.